What is going on? Facebook Live. We are here for another daily Draft Wizard. It's right around 5:30, which is when we go live every day to customize mock drafts to your needs. We're going to get two lined up right now, and I could probably fit in a third. If anybody wants one, feel free to request it. We're going to start with a 2 QB league, though. This one's for Simon, a 10-teamer, but I like and respect. I think 10 teams JV. What I do like and respect, what's going on, Anthony, is that it's 2 QB. That makes it a little bit deeper. For a 10-teamer, it's the only real way to do it is to get some depth involved. Otherwise, you're looking at the thinnest possible teams. They also go 3 wide receiver and a flex, so even if it's only 10, they do test the depth there. So, Simon, I normally would rag on you here and make fun of you for being in a 10-teamer, but if anyone's going to do it, you're doing it right here in terms of that depth. So I like that a lot, Simon. These settings, not bad. Anthony, welcome back in, buddy. Let me know if I can do any mocks for you. I appreciate you always tuning in every Monday right around here. Alrighty, guys, so 10 out of 10, 2 QB, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a flex. Let's rip this up, and then we're going to do one for Nick Zaleski out there in Massachusetts. What's going on? Big Great White. 4 of 12, half PPR, 2 receivers, and a flex for Nick Z. So we got those 2 lined up. If you got any others, though, happy to fit as many as I can in before Taco Tuesday. Howling Wolf tonight, baby, my namesake. Alrighty, we're going to get this started. As you guys know, it sometimes freezes up just a little bit, so stick with it as I press this start draft button. And while that's going on, do not really want the new one right now. While that's all going on, just to promote some things, the Offseason Bible is going live, which is fantastic. It's our first thing we've ever asked anybody to pay for, that, and I would never do it if I didn't think it was worth the money. So if you're ever interested, you can go to rotostreetjournal.com/offseason. It's going to be live within the next day or two, and that's going to also give you a free pass to our next guide coming out, the preseason, the draft day playbook, we like to call it. So that's those 2 things. Keep your eyes peeled, all the bargains, the risers, all that good stuff. And our second guide, this one, the first one, the Offseason Bible, all about who's moved teams, whether through the draft, whether through free agency, and whose values have been most impacted by that. So if you're ready for your drafts, and mine's coming up Sunday, so we're almost here, guys. It's that time of the year, and I'm here to do these draft wizards to help you out, and we got those guides and whatnot to also help you out further. But here we are, 10-teamer. Let's let it rip. So Travis Kelce, the most recommended guy by the experts here. In a 2 QB league, though, there's no doubt in my mind, if Pat Mahomes is there at 10, that I'm taking Pat Mahomes. I don't ever recommend taking a quarterback early. I think it's the dumbest thing you could possibly do in fantasy is taking a QB early when there's so much depth at the position, supply, demand. You only need to start one with a high supply, so the demand is low, the supply is high, but not the case in a 2 QB league where everyone's going to have 2. So 20 quarterbacks in this 10-teamer are going to be started. That changes up the philosophy quite a bit. So I start right there with Pat Mahomes, the only guy I would consider in the first round at the end there in a 2 QB league. And then you're looking at some intriguing picks. It's a full PPR league, so ideally you have some good wide receivers. I love Odell Beckham. I do love James Conner, Joe Mixon, but neither of them stand out huge to me. I wouldn't hate the idea of pairing Travis Kelce with Pat Mahomes now that I got him in a 10-teamer. You want the edges wherever you can find them. And Travis Kelce, obviously the biggest edge gainer, but to me, he's about 17 on my big board. I'm going to go with, and I don't know why his ECR has fallen, Mr. Odell Beckham, but I love this guy. Limitless ceiling, maybe the highest ceiling of any wide receiver in football. So talented, and now finally gets an accurate quarterback, someone that can deliver the mail. Think about all the times he was wide open streaking down the field, and Eli just sailed it over his head. You're not going to be dealing with that this year. Now you look at the QBs. I love Matt Ryan, my number 4 guy, number 2 quarterback last year in a 2 QB league. That's a great value. I don't have any running backs yet, though, so I got to make sure I get at least one guy here. It's a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver league, so those settings got to be on the back of your mind here. PPR, full PPR, I really like Aaron Jones. I think he's a great pick here at the bottom of the 3rd round in a 10-teamer. Aaron Jones, PPR machine. Matt LaFleur loves to throw to his running backs. It's the goal of his pass game is to merge it with the running game. Tons of running back screens. Jamal Williams has been at all training camp with a hamstring, giving Aaron Jones a chance to really separate. Whenever he's gotten 18 or more touches, he's averaged like over 20 fantasy points per game. He would have been the RB5 last year at his over 18 touch pace, and it works out perfectly because Matt LaFleur's lead lead running back has touched the ball at least 18 times in 87% of his starts. So I really love all that for Aaron Jones. I think he's a great guy. And now I've got my top quarterback, I've got a top receiver, I've got a top running back. George Kittle sitting here is very intriguing. And again, you want to get those edges in 10-teamers. But to me, it's going to be tough to pass up on some running backs here. I love Henry. I love Carson, though, so I hope both those guys fall to me. And in full PPR, 2 wide receivers. Keenan Allen's going to be really tough to pass up there. 100 catch upside every single year, the engine of this offense. And then now you got Melvin Gordon potentially out for the year. It means more volume, especially in the red zone, with Gordon having 12 or more touchdowns in 3 straight seasons. Maybe some of that goes to Keenan Allen. You got to love Philly Rivers' #1 target there. So now I could wrap up my wide receivers. I love Godwin. Love the way the Bucs offense just drove down the throat of the Steelers to start the game. But now I'm looking at quarterbacks, and after this tier, it's going to be a big hit. And my guy right here, Kyler Murray, sitting there, the air raid engineer, to pair up Mahomes with who I think is going to be the 2019 Mahomes, Simon, that is the play right there. And so 2 quarterbacks, I got my top 2 guys locked up. I'm intrigued even to go maybe Jameis Winston, one of my favorite high upside guys, especially after how good the Bucs looked the other night. But I'm not going to do it. I love Kyler Murray, though. Looked like he belonged on the NFL field in his last action. Poised, calm, accurate. Didn't look like the field was too big for him. I know everybody's worried about his size and his unprovenness, but he seemed to really have it down. So, big fan right there. And anybody tuning in again, if you don't mind giving it a like, giving it a share, giving some comments to get more exposure and whatnot, I would greatly appreciate all that as well. Let's keep this draft rolling, though, for you, Simon. And so a few more running backs sitting here. In a full PPR league, Derrick Henry obviously does have to lose quite a bit of value. He doesn't catch any balls, and that's obviously a concern for a guy in a full PPR league. That's a major point source that's taken away. But the way he ended the year last year, that ridiculous pace, where he had, was averaging 150 rushing yards and over a touchdown a game for those last 4 weeks, the top scoring running back in any format. That's got to be in the back of your mind. I also love Chris Carson. I think he could bring a ton of upside to the table, especially with this newfound receiving role promised. To me, in a PPR league, I might give the slight edge to Chris Carson. A lot of people pick Josh Jacobs because they have such a humongous target share over there. Why is everyone still on the QB size kick? Yeah, I agree. And Breeze and Wilson tear it up. I'm with you, Jordan. Like, what was the concern with the size here? I like how Kyler addressed the issue, too. He's like, it's not as if I haven't been playing 5'9" my entire life, which is a very good point for that guy. He knows how to play short. He knows how to see over his lineman. It's nothing new. I get the NFL will be bigger, but I'm still with you, Jordan. It's definitely a moot point in my opinion. But me, now I'm at this round. I'm going to go, let's show you the draft board here. I'm going to go, we got Mahomes, Odell, Jones, Keenan, Kyler Murray. So I got both my QBs, 2 top receiver weapons. I'm going to lock up a running back here. To me, I lean Carson or Henry. That's really tough, really tricky. Even though a lot of people would go Josh Jacobs because the Raiders have really no one else to throw to outside of AB and him, and they're going to be playing catch-up all day. Oh, man, that's tough because I do love Godwin, too, but I wouldn't go Godwin over either of these running backs. I already have 2 great receivers, so I'm going to go Chris Carson or Derrick Henry. I don't know what you would do, Jordan and Simon, all you guys tuned in. Let me know your thoughts. It's a tough debate, but full PPR, I think I lean Carson with all this newfound receiving promise being given to him. So I go Carson there. And then you're going to see a ton of receivers go flying off the board. A lot of guys. That would have been intriguing there. Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Henry almost fell his way back to me in round 7. 2 QBs, I get it. But David Montgomery almost making his way there too. Robbie Anderson, a great third receiver. So a lot of guys I would have liked see fall to me. Did not, and that's unfortunate. But let's see who we got here. Some intriguing quarterback options, so maybe I didn't have to take that plunge, but you know how much I love Kyler Murray, so I don't regret it. We got a flex to fill, a third receiver spot to fill. Maybe we take some of these upside guys. There's lots, though, here to love. I love James White, PPR. I love Mark Ingram, the featured back in Greg Roman's scheme. The latest reports on Sony are that he's really distanced himself from Damian Harris, so you got to feel great about that. We don't have a tight end as well yet either, and O.J. Howard is sitting there. I was just going to say, if he's there, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. Then Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, all that next tier that could break into the elite. I love all those guys, but to me, O.J. Howard's my favorite of all of them. So I'm going to go O.J. Howard. I'm going to check out the receivers because I still have that Montgomery over Carson and Henry for me. Says Jordan. That's like those. Literally have it go, Jordan. It's 26 Derrick Henry, 27 Carson, and then 28 Montgomery. It's such a crapshoot, but Montgomery still is going to have to deal with Tariq Cohen, so I'm not 100% sold on him over some of those other guys, but clearly at 28, I'm like 30 spots higher than the experts. I love the guy, but that's the reason why I don't have him over those other ones. And to me, I'm going to round up my flex here with Mark Ingram. And just in case Carson, he's got that sketchy injury history, so I love loading that up. And now I'm going to really have to dig deep for my wide receiver 3. Some of the guys I was hoping to see there, Will Fuller, I just saw Christian Kirk go, who I absolutely love. But Curtis Samuel, I would be happy with. I like Larry Fitzgerald quite a bit as well. And then it's a really big drop-off in my opinion. So I'm going to get Curtis Samuel. Every report has just been gushing over this guy. Not a huge Sterling Shepard fan, at least Eli Manning's the starting quarterback there. But Daniel Jones did flash a little bit of upside, so I'm not as against, I should say, the Giants and going back into that offense. To me, I'm going to also now lock up. You look at the rest of the quarterbacks, and it gets ugly fast. So I'm going to take Josh Allen, one of my favorite value QBs, one of my favorite QB2s in a non-2 QB league, was the number 2 scoring quarterback behind only Deshaun Watson over the last, from week 11 on when he came back healthy. Tons of value in Josh Allen, in my opinion. And I see Latavius Murray, one of my favorite running backs, sitting there. That's a no-brainer, in my opinion. The Saints offense, Mark Ingram was the RB4 just a couple seasons ago, or RB6 rather, whereas Alvin Kamara was the RB4, and he looked like a perfect natural fit, in my opinion. Latavius Murray did. One of the best values in all of fantasy football. I'm about 30 spots higher on my big board than where he goes to the experts rankings, because I think he's going to slide right in. He's not quite the Mark Ingram talent, but I don't think he does too much. He's not too far off. He does everything you need. He showed those receiving skills with 3 catches already in his Saints debut. He's going to get a lot of the goal line action, 10-plus TD upside, and then also the fact, what if, hope to God nothing happens, but if Alvin Kamara did ever go down, we're talking about the ultimate handcuff with benefits here. Double-digit touchdown upside, plenty of reception upside. Again, Mark Ingram was a top 10 running back with Kamara there. I'm not saying Latavius Murray will be, but top 20 is well within his reach, and then he'd be a top 5 guy if the worst-case scenario hits. So Latavius Murray should be so much higher owned than he is. And now I've got my 3 quarterbacks, so let's show you kind of how this draft is going for those of you just kind of getting here. Pat Mahomes, Kyler Murray in my 2 QB league. I absolutely love that. The fact that Mahomes fell in a 2 QB to 10 is just a gift from the God, Simon, if that ever happens. And then I went Odell Beckham, one of my favorite players. I love the switch to Cleveland. I think Baker Mayfield's really going to unlock the upside here with this guy. I love my running back stable, too. Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Mark Ingram, and Latavius Murray. Certainly not your number 1 true horses, but 3 to 4 guys even with Latavius Murray being lumped in there that as my number 2 I'd be very happy with. So you hope at least one of these guys emerges as the true horse. I really think Aaron Jones has that type of upside. With Keenan Allen paired up with Odell, 3 receivers. I don't love my 3rd receiver spot here, Curtis Samuel, but he'd be my ideal number 4, a bench guy, or I could throw into my flex. Love the edge here with O.J. Howard at tight end too, though. Josh Allen as a backup, huge upside. And again, you see all these QBs going so early. This is a 2 QB league for those of you just tuning in. I would never have even considered a quarterback till about round 10 otherwise. So that's just one thing to also keep in note. So then I'm going to go back to my cheat sheets. I don't feel great about my 3rd receiver spot, but I also don't love much of the talent there. I do like the idea of getting my handcuff to Chris Carson, given that injury history. I like the idea of taking Austin Eckler at this stage of the draft. Especially with there's still tons of uncertainty around Melvin Gordon. In all honesty, the way that he said that if it was me when he was addressing Le'Veon Bell last year, I totally support the guy. I would do the same thing too. I'm not shocked if this guy holds out all the season. So especially at this stage of the draft, Austin Eckler could be a steal. But there's still tons of third wide receivers. And given that Curtis Samuel, no sure thing at my number 3 receiver spot between Deshaun Jackson and Moncrief, I really like a lot of those guys. I take either of them over Golden Tate with that 4-game suspension. I love all the reports of Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson lighting it up in camp. They lit it up in OTAs. It's carried over to padded practices. It's just apparently been an unbreakable bond between those guys. So huge fan of him. Royce Freeman, an interesting pick. Now he's forcing kind of an even committee. Both the running backs I was hoping for are now gone, but I like Matt Breida a lot this late, especially with the rumors that Jerick McKinnon could end up on the IR. That would mean he'd be the clear-cut number 2. I love Dante Moncrief, though, a number 2 receiver in the Steelers' explosive attack, led the league in passing yardage last year. Obviously, Antonio Brown a huge part of that, but when he leaves, that vacates over 200 targets between him and Jesse James, and someone's going to have to step up and get him. Obviously, we know Juju's getting the number 1 treatment there. James Washington did look great the other night, but Moncrief's the one that's been running with the 2s this entire offseason as the number 2 to Juju. He's an athletic freak, 6'3", ran a 4.4, has a 40-inch vertical, and whenever he's had a competent quarterback, whenever Andrew Luck's been on the field, this guy had 12 touchdowns in 14 games played with Andrew Luck. He's just been bogged down by Blake fucking Bortles last year, Jacoby Brissett the year before, so there's a lot to like here about Dante Moncrief. But I like, sitting here right now, I really like Breida as that clear-cut number 2 in this offense. I think Austin Eckler had been gone at that point, but the other Chargers back to really pay attention to here is Justin Jackson. When Adam Schefter came on our podcast, he said he would expect Justin Jackson to fill in the Melvin Gordon role over Austin Eckler. So he similarly has some of that enormous upside. So again, let's kind of show you where we're at in this draft. I think there's only a few more rounds here. But again, Pat Mahomes, Odell Beckham, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Kyler Murray, Chris Carson, O.J. Howard, Ingram, Curtis Samuel, then Josh Allen for a bench spot, Latavius Murray, Deshaun Jackson, Moncrief, Breida. Whew, you're loading up on upside here, my man. And then last but not least, I'm going to take Justin Jackson. What's the point of taking Delanie Walker at this stage of the draft? Give me the guy that could be the featured back for the Chargers. And then I still got one more pick. I'm not going to burn it on a defense or a kicker, especially at this stage of the offseason. Let's see if I can find another name for you guys just to toss into your sleeper radar. I could get my Jamal Williams handcuff for Aaron Jones. Oh, Duke Johnson. I mean, there's no way Duke Johnson lasts this long, but if people still, early drafters are looking at old cheat sheets, Duke Johnson, my good God, is now with Houston, and he could absolutely light it up there. So I'm a humongous fan of Duke Johnson. And then from there, it's getting ugly. I don't need to take another quarterback, even though it's a 2-quarterback league. PPR-wise, Chris Thompson, Devin Singletary getting the featured back reps. Getting a lot of first-team reps and making good defenders look foolish, so I'll take him and stack it up. So I got to see, usual, if you get a bad grade, it means you probably had a good draft with these things. So I'll just show you my bench there too. I'll send this to you, Simon. 2-quarterback league, I really like what we did here, no matter what they say in terms of a grade there. Mahomes and Kyler Murray, beautiful. Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen, and then between Curtis Samuel, Moncrief, or Deshaun Jackson, your top 2 are locked in. You need one of those last 3 to pan out. Yeah, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Mark Ingram, or Latavius Murray for the flex. I love that. Josh Allen for your bye weeks or in case Kyler Murray doesn't pan out. I think that's a fantastic value there as well. And then just upside running backs to close your draft. I would put Duke Johnson just as high as any of these guys, if not higher, as a Houston Texan. So he won't be sitting there in most drafts, but if you can sneak him in right now while people are still catching up to news that he's with the Texans, that'd be fantastic. Alrighty, as promised, we're now going to hit the 4 out of 12. So let's go to 12. Let's go to number 4. This one's for our buddy Nick Z out in Massachusetts. He's a half PPR guy, not 9. I don't know why none of this is going there we go. 4 out of 12. He's not 2 QB. He's 1 QB, 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and that 2 receivers does make a significant difference here. I just want to check my notes and make sure that's right. 2 wide receivers plus flex. Yep. So 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. And that makes a big difference because you don't have to reach for that 3rd wide receiver. You can just kind of build that depth, especially if you go early at the position. So 4 out of 12. Those are your settings here. Let's get this one ripping for Nick Z. And then again, if you guys have any requests, let me know. What's going on, Nick? I'm glad you ended up making it here. And then I see Theo tuned in. Dave, Cardo. We got Chris, Jason. Good crew here for this mock draft. If anybody else wants another one, make sure you kind of comment, rip my team to shreds as I build it. The 4th pick, as this is kind of loading, it takes a second here. Very intriguing, though. I've gotten a lot of 4th pick requests, and it used to be a no-brainer. Which one of Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and Alvin Kamara falls to you, lock it in. But nowadays, with Zeke holding out and 56% of the experts say to take him, I disagree right now. Obviously, the guy's holding out, and he'd be my number 1 player if he was in camp and we knew that he was ready to go. Zeke is untouchable in that sense. He had 77 receptions last year. Only 9 touchdowns, I want to say. I think that positively regresses, moves up to his average. He had 16 touchdowns as a rookie. So imagine you've had 77 receptions, 16 touchdowns. My good God, Zeke Elliott would be an unstoppable force. But unfortunately, he's holding out. He's in Cabo. I don't know if he's going to ever show up. So that becomes a humongous risk. I would absolutely go David Johnson in his absence right now if I'm such a big believer in the air raid. I mean, there's no doubt that David Johnson could end up as the number 1 running back just as he was in 2016. 1,000-yard catch, 1,000-yard rushing upside. That's his goal for the season. Could catch 70 to 80 balls again in this offense. It's going to create tons of space. We already saw him getting chunk yardage on screens. Kyler Murray is the real deal, folks. And I think in light of that, he's going to absolutely ignite this offense. Now, if Joe Mixon ever fell to you in round 2, Nick, you know as well as I do, that's a no-brainer, in my opinion. I think he's going to be the next Todd Gurley in the Zach Taylor offense. I'm just kind of taking a gander at what else is even here, and it's a humongous drop. So I'm going to be going him. None of these receivers even come close. 84% of experts recommend it, and I totally agree. It's a no-brainer. That you can put in Dalvin Cook sometimes falls there too. If you get that type of start, though, my good God. And so Kittle, round 3, not a bad value. And I haven't even tested out, what does my team look like if I go Kittle or Ertz in round 3? Because I never would. As much as I love these guys, as great as it is to have that humongous edge, I could see both Kittle and Ertz regressing. And I'd rather get a surefire number 1 locked-in receiver in Keenan Allen. So I'm going to take him because otherwise you're getting into some sketchy territory there. And, at this point, you got great talent. Let's see at the running back position who's falling here. A lot of the guys I would have loved to have in round 4, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, my usual targets, they are now gone. So this draft's going a little bit differently than I expected. Some other names that intrigue me, Sony Michel, a big rise with these last few days with Damian Harris apparently far away in terms of everything. So if he has that goal line roll unlocked, Sony Michel, that changes everything for his value. He'd be right back to that upside we saw in the playoffs where he was just feasting. Tevin Coleman, Phillip Lindsay. Lindsay might be the play with Theo Riddick hurt. But right now, let's look at our team. We already have 2 workhorses, and you start 2 wide receivers and then a flex. I really like Tyler Lockett. Chris Godwin also very high on my receiver rankings. So at this point, those running backs, none of them seem like anyone I'd have to reach for. I do like O.J. Howard a lot too, but Lockett, a significant leap above any of the guys I mentioned. The true number 1 here. Historically efficient last year. Unbelievable numbers. And then you remove Doug Baldwin. And apparently they've made a concerted effort to move this guy all over. Get him targeted in such different areas of the field. So I really like Tyler Lockett. And then did Chris Godwin happen to fall back to me? Because that could be an intriguing flex to toss in. No, but you got Cooper Kupp, which is interesting. Let me see what running backs, though, are here. So Sony, Phillip, James White. Man, I don't know that I love any of these guys. And did O.J. Howard still make it there? So O.J. Howard sitting there in round 5, Nick. I think that's where I would go. I don't know what your feelings are on him. Let me know in the comments. Between him, I do like Cooper Kupp a lot, though. Man, that'd be tricky to pass up my flex options here. But ultimately, I think one of these three guys falls and ends up being my flex option. I think O.J. Howard can get you a humongous edge at tight end. Even though I like guys like Hunter Henry and Jared Cook, this is the next elite. O.J. Howard averaged 16.6 yards per catch over his last 2 years. And Bruce Arians is all about mismatches and getting his weapons vertical. I think he's got the ultimate weapon here in O.J. Howard. So between him and Cooper Kupp, those two are damn close. And the fact that Kupp's healthy and looking great in camp, whew, let me know what you guys would do there between Cooper Kupp and O.J. Howard. I'm not looking at a quarterback quite yet. And these running backs are all kind of a step below those two guys. To me, I'm going O.J. Howard, though. Let me know what you guys would do. But I'm going to get that edge. I'm going to go O.J. Howard. And then next round, we're going to see all the tight ends still sitting there, and I'm going to regret it. Oh, there goes Sony, Phillip Lindsay, a bunch of the guys I was considering. Oh, God, did not like to see that run on players. But I do like James White still, and I love Tevin Coleman, especially with Jerick McKinnon potentially going to the IR. That could be huge news. Sitting here at wide receiver, I like Mike Williams the most out of this bunch. Landry, Moore, Calvin Ridley all have tons of upside. I'm going to hope one of these five fall to me and get my Tevin Coleman. No, I would go Mike Williams here. Oh, but I have Keenan Allen. You know what? That's tricky. I don't want to just be that overly dependent on this offense, this Chargers offense. So Zusky says he would get gone Kupp. Intriguing pick there. And remember, this is a two-receiver league, so we're just looking at flex potential options here. So for me, Calvin Ridley or DJ Moore, I think I go Ridley there. All signs pointing to him finding a little more consistency after he had so many blow-ups last year. Oh, no, Coleman just went. God damn it, that's the guy I wanted. And then otherwise here at running back, Kenyon Drake or James White. Is Kenyon Drake going to be the James White of the Dolphins? Are they going to be just completely pass happy and need to throw it all the time because they suck? I'd have a hard time passing up on Mr. Austin Eckler at this point. I do really like DJ Moore's upside, though. So let's look at your team. Let's go to the draft board here. And just kind of check out what we've done. David Johnson, Joe Mixon, wouldn't question those. And I really think Keenan Allen, a nice play there. And so you got your top four locked in. 2 running back, 2 receiver. And then we got our tight end. You got our flex play right here. I kind of want to go running back and build some more depth at that position. And it'd be tough to pass on an Austin Eckler if I was drafting today. If we knew Melvin Gore wasn't showing up, Eckler would be going at least 2 rounds earlier. And James White, though, so much value in that Patriots offense that's really devoid of reliable pass catchers for Tom Brady. So I don't know, man. That's a tough one. And then you got Tariq Cohen still sitting here, a proven playmaker in Nagy's offense. Ah, man. This is where your brain starts to get mush and you just try to ponder all these decisions. I would say James White, but then Mike Williams even. Like, do I start both of those wide receivers there? Man, this is getting tricky. Usually I'm just like a snap. This is the guy I draft, but we're looking through all these. So everybody watching here, feel free to comment in. We got, I'm not looking at Russell Wilson. I'm not looking at a quarterback at all. Remove him completely. I don't even want Russell Wilson on my team anywhere. So we're looking at, do I get that Austin Eckler and hope that Melvin Gordon doesn't pan out? It just holds out the rest of the year. Do I go with the safety and go James White, whose upside I think took a little hit because he's no longer just the clear, far and away handcuff to Sony. They got Damian Harris now, and that's where a ton of James White's touchdowns and upside came, was when he was getting that red zone role. He won't have that this year, so I see a little bit of regression here for James White in the touchdown department. I would normally go Mike Williams, but I already have Keenan Allen. I like DJ Moore, but I'd rather get Curtis Samuel around later. And I like Tariq Cohen, but now David Montgomery could eat into that. So, I don't know if I love any of these guys. Anthony, a great question, too. I go Joe Mixon, full PPR, but it's damn close. It's the health concerns with Dalvin Cook that keep me from being truly high on him, but both of them, just astronomical ceilings. This stage of the draft, I think I would genuinely go Austin Eckler. You look at the tight ends here, though, that makes me kind of question, should I have gone with O.J. Howard? I loved him, but Jared Cook's still sitting here in round 7, so that's one thing to consider, Nick, is if Jared Cook's going to be there in round 7, then maybe you don't take that plunge. Maybe you take and OJ, and then maybe you took Cooper Kupp, and then instead you had Tevin Coleman now at running back, which I would feel a lot better about. Again, if anybody just tuning in didn't know, Jerick McKinnon, knee already flared up. He's been resting now for 2 weeks, and there's a really decent chance he ends up on the IR, which means 8 weeks for Tevin Coleman to truly establish himself as Shanahan's lead back. There's like 1,600-yard rushing upside there. So that's a guy, just make sure on everybody's radar. I've debated this pick long enough. If I'm sitting there, I'm on the clock. At this point, it's winding down on me. I think I would go... Oh, God, I still can't make the decision here. I wish Kenyon Drake, I wish Kalen Ballage hadn't been such a little nagging prick and taken all the goal line snaps. I go Austin Eckler. Let's go with Eckler. Let's see if Melvin Gordon, what happens there. If he doesn't show up, you just got yourself one of the steals of the draft. Just saw some of the receivers I was hoping would remain there start flying off the board. Oof, Marvin Jones, I do like the body control. And then it looks like a humongous, decline. I do like Dante Moncrief, similar there. Jared Cook is still sitting there. I might have to even just take him because it's such a great value on this guy. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. In terms of running back, what are we looking at? Rashard Penny, even though I don't have Chris Carson, which I almost have him in every single draft I do, I really think Rashard Penny could bring a lot of upside to the table. And when I'm looking at your team here, Nick, you have a pretty decent hole at running back, especially if Gordon shows up. So I like going Rashard Penny here. They've already said it's going to be a 1A, 1B. I like Carson a lot more. He's severely outplaying Rashard Penny, but Penny, by all accounts, was in much better shape this offseason, came to camp taking things a lot more seriously, so he has to warrant your consideration. Then let's look at the quarterback position. Is it time to make that plunge? My guy Kyler's gone. And then you're looking at Drew Brees and a decent drop-off from there. I'm not a Russell Wilson fan, so I wouldn't go him. My guy Kyler gone. Goff, another guy I like to get late. But that means most teams have a quarterback at this point. And whew, I almost passed up on Darrell Henderson. I haven't drafted him yet today, so I want to make sure this one's very clear. There's no player I'm more excited about this late in a draft than Darrell Henderson. We had Adam Schefter on our podcast, wrote ffbdpod.com/Schefter if you haven't heard that great interview yet. But he said the Rams identified Darrell Henderson as the best offensive player in this draft. They've been long looking for that compliment. They called it the Batman and Robin to Todd Gurley. And they've long been trying to find that, and Henderson was perfect. He ran a ton of outside zone at Memphis. He thrived in it, averaged over 10 yards per pop on outside zone runs, and no team in the NFL runs more outside zone than the Rams. So a perfect fit just standalone-wise. I think we could see some huge explosive plays. They kind of call them their Kamara, brings a Kamara-style element. But then you also, similar to Latavius Murray we were talking about earlier, Darrell Henderson has that handcuff with upside, handcuff with benefits style. If Gurley's knee does flare up and they need someone to start, this guy gets 15, 20 touches inside that explosive Rams offense. Whew, could be a monster. So he's a guy on every single draft I try to lock up in round like 7, 8. So that was a no-brainer. I can't believe I almost missed that one. Seeing a few other names I really like. Moncrief just went. Carlos Hyde just went. And still Drew Brees is sitting here. So let's just take him. I mean, it's disrespectful at this point that Drew Brees is still falling, even if that team projects to be a little bit more run-heavy. These other weapons here are just not even in his stratosphere. And Jared Cook is still here? I know I reached on tight end, but what the hell is going on? This is like a fake draft, but if I'm pretending it's real, there's none of these receivers. I mean, I like DK. I like Nikhil. I like John Brown as the most impressive player in their camp, but nobody. I mean, I have Jared Cook like 5 rounds ago projected. So I'm going to go with that. Jared Cook. O.J. Howard's got that sketchy injury history, so totally could work, a nice backup there. Hell, maybe even my flex. So let's look at what we've kind of created here. David Johnson, Joe Mixon, and then some upside stabs at running back. I don't love an unsure third. Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. This maybe I would reconsider and go, if we're going this way, I probably would have gone Phillip Lindsay if I could do it again. Nick, just kind of talking about this one. Maybe taking Sony Michel. I do love the value on Calvin Ridley there. DJ Moore, Mike Williams. So, I knew a good receiver was falling here. But maybe I would have gone a running back instead at that point of the draft. A lot of the guys I love, Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, Carson, going in round 4 where you often might get one of those guys. But Tyler Lockett, I think, is a great value. So I love these 3 receivers and top 2 running backs. You only have to start 2 anyway, so it's really like I only need one of these 4 guys, probably Calvin Ridley, to be my flex. And if not, maybe I throw in 2 tight ends because I think Jared Cook could easily catch 10 touchdowns and be a top 5 tight end this season. So I think that's just all fantastic value. I don't necessarily feel the need to reach on Big Ben right now. I have Drew Brees. If I had like a Kyler Murray, let's say, or Jameis Winston, I needed a nice safe backup. This makes sense to take one of those guys, but I don't need either one of them. I like Devin Singletary at this stage as a nice stash after he's gotten all the RB1 reps these last few weeks in camp, and he looked pretty good. Damian Harris, intriguing stash. Kareem Hunt, if you want to go and take that plunge and just wait it out for a few weeks. At some point, you definitely want to lock in Chase Edmonds if you draft. David Johnson there, get your handcuff. They've been raving about how great Chase Edmonds has looked in early camp. Let's see what else we got. Marquise Goodwin, these receivers are kind of garbage at this point. Let's see if there's anybody worth tossing out there. I'm not a Deshaun Hamilton fan. Crowder's already gone. 100 catch upside, though. They're raving about him. That's a guy I would have liked to see. Deebo Samuel, definitely an intriguing pick. Led the team in receiving in his first game. I like throwing out there Keyshawn. I always throw out Keyshawn Johnson. Nice, intriguing receiver sleeper. We're in that late round phase. Who else do I like at this stage? McCole Hardman. Definitely brings some intriguing deep speed. Got a little connection issue. There we go. Now we're back and going. None of these tight ends are intriguing at all, though, at this point. So we're just going to take a few last upside stabs. What round are we even in here? Probably not too many picks left when that's the kind of garbage we're sifting through. So around 12. So probably about 3 more picks here. And again, any other requests, get them in and let me know. I think out of all of these weapons, I do like Albert Wilson as the potential slot guy, a great yards after the catch style runner. I like Devin Singletary. I would probably go Devin Singletary just on the upside that maybe he takes that backfield over. It's a mess. You're not going to use him now, but your running backs are a ton of stabs here, and when that's the case, you got to just keep taking stabs and hope something pans out. I like Deebo Samuel at this stage. That was the guy I was also considering. And then we'll take 1 or 2 last style looks around and try to find some upside here. I like Preston Williams for the Dolphins as a late round upside guy. Let's get your handcuff, Chase Edmonds. Make sure we have that insurance policy for David Johnson. And now there's all the kickers and all that garbage. I'm not too worried about locking any of that up. And so let me see, just one last look at the cheat sheets to see if there's any last sleepers to throw out there on your guys' radar. So again, we talked about Keyshawn Johnson, a little piece of the air raid. Would like to have him. I'm not a Deshaun Hamilton guy. A lot of people are. He's not really on my radar. It's Joe fucking Flacco. Give me a piece of the air raid instead of a piece of Joe Flacco. Fuck that. Disgusting. Thompson, Davis, none of this. Oh, boom. There's the guy. I should have cited this guy a while ago. Tony Pollard. Zeke Elliott probably going to get the deal, probably going to report. But if not, Jerry Jones came out and said this week, we know Tony Pollard can carry the load. This is a guy that we believe in. We've seen him do it. What I'd really like to see is week 1 in the preseason, he was the only guy to run with Dak Prescott, 4 carries, 16 yards. That didn't stand out, but the fact that he was the only one in and they pulled him after 1 series of action, Tony Pollard, tells you that this team really highly values him. So I think that's one of the biggest penny stocks out there in fantasy football right now. I can't believe he was still sitting there. I would have taken him above Devin Singletary on. So, everyone else I have higher than him. Ooh, nice little A-, the rare nice grade for the Wolf. Not something you usually see. This is not every day. And then Tony Pollard down there, Nick. Don't forget that name. So I just screenshotted that for you. I'm going to send that to you right now. So the text will come through. Look at that type of service right there. Alrighty, folks. So we got those 2 in. 2 QB 10-teamer. And then we got the 4 out of 12, which I've been getting a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any requests, you know what's coming up. And I don't mind doing repeats. I think a lot of people hold on to their requests to like the last week of August. But I'm going to, as much as I want to get these in every day, get them in now. I'm happy to repeat this. Like, Nick, you want to come up in a week and to hit me up before this draft? It doesn't mean just because I did one, I'm not going to do another one. So get your requests in. I'd be happy to do them at any point. Get all your questions in. Again, Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Anthony. I think I answered that one for you already, but I go Mixon. I think he's going to be that Zach Taylor, Todd Gurley style centerpiece. This is a Sean McVay disciple. He's got great receiving ability. I think this is the year we see him hit that like 60 to 70 catch threshold where he has so much upside. I think he's going to be great in that zone blocking scheme as well. But let me just run down this team because it's got a lot of people I love. David Johnson, Joe Mixon at the top. Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. Love that. Usually I try to take a running back round for, but all the guys I target between David Montgomery, Chris Carson, and Ingram were all gone. And, I didn't feel the need to go into this tier. I took O.J. Howard around 5. That's the one thing I'm kind of questioning, especially when Jared Cook fell around 11. If I had known that, obviously I would have taken a guy like Sony, Latavius Murray. The rest of the guys here, Calvin Ridley, I like that pick. I love the upside of Austin Eckler. I kind of wish I went Coleman here instead of Ridley, though, and hoped Ridley or DJ Moore or one of those guys fell, because I still think Tevin Coleman, man, he could be a monster in that Shanahan zone blocking scheme with Jerick McKinnon laid up. But then I took as many upside stabs as I could between Eckler, Penny. Love Darrell Henderson. I probably should have gone Darrell Henderson over Penny. I like him more. Again, the most explosive player in the draft by Sean McVay. Round 10, where I usually start to consider QBs, so if Drew Brees is sitting there, all the better. Hall of Famer, most 5,000 yards. No other quarterback's done it multiple times, and he's done it 5 times. Good God, love Drew Brees and the value there, especially with the new weapon, Jared Cook. 10 touchdown upside in round 11 all day. Maybe the featured back for the Bills. Round 12, I'd rather have Tony Pollard than any of these guys, though. In the off chance Zeke holds out, you got yourself maybe this year's James Conner behind a top 5 line, an offense that has nowhere to go but up with Kellen Moore calling the shots. I really like Tony Pollard. You made sure to handcuff David Johnson, get that insurance policy. They love Chase Edmonds. He'd be a true feature down back. And then Deebo Samuel. I know you like him. I like him too. After leading the team in receiving in week 1 of the preseason, Pettis now has to earn his role. Who says this guy doesn't lead the team in receiving yards and targets and everything? Jalen Hurd also looked well. He's a guy that could be on your late round radar too. Alrighty, guys, that's this episode of the Daily Draft Wizard. I am the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy football wolves by doing things like this, the Daily Draft Wizard. Connect with me on Twitter at RotoStreetWolf. And if you haven't yet, check out the Offseason Bible when we go live with it in the next day or two. We got a couple little kinks to work out, and then we're going to make sure to update that too. If you're worried about it being non-updated, you'll get the updated guide as well as part of buying it. And so much of it there's a couple little notes, but almost all of it, we updated it, through the end of July. So only a couple things like Donta Foreman's release and a few things not covered in there. So keep your eyes peeled for that. All right, the only guy I'm missing on this team actually is Duke Johnson. Probably was sitting there. That's a great value to keep on your mind as well. All righty, guys, thanks again for tuning in. This is the Wolf of Roto Street, and I am out for Taco Tuesday.